Hello guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new, it's Christian from Emotions in Wine. Today as you see standing is a long time, I don't have, not long but several months, and this is a talk, so no tasting, to change a bit, and then I had the idea, there was a video similar before, beginning of this year, about lesser known Italian regions. Now I want to talk about, as per title, something interesting to look for in 26. So I will repeat something from Italy briefly, and then I will talk about other European regions or wines in particular. Is something that makes sense to talk about. Of course, if you are a Cabernet guy, this is the wrong place for you anyway, because as you know, I'm alternative, adventurous, so we rarely speak about the usual suspects, and even those possibly in a different angle. So more and more I'm trying to go for other regions now, not to stick always on the same, makes sense. And then also because there are new trends. It's been the change of climate, so new regions coming up because of the weather is getting better. There are even new plantations in North Europe. I will not talk about that, but keep it in mind. Now even in Belgium, Poland. So if you go in these countries, even further north, I had something, you may find wine nowadays. So there is a lot of change. There will be a surprise country that I see is getting more and more interesting with some regions, but you will see later. Let's start. So Italy, I just said, Sardinia, Campania, and Etna in Sicily are the three most interesting still for one reason or the other, not that known or underrated. Etna not anymore actually because it's quite famous now and even quite expensive, but many people still didn't try or don't know much. So it's the hottest region anyway. So that makes sense to hint and to talk about. For videos, so all the links below for the videos that I made already about some of these topics, and expect something coming in the coming months for the other regions. Campania in particular, Irpinia, is very peculiar for the terroir, the climate, the grapes, everything, and it's still underrated. Value for money is still often very good. Fiano, Greco, Taurasi, so keep it in mind, look for, even the videos I made had a discreet success, so there is more interest, that is making me happy. Same we can say about Sardinia, really something special, because there you have the best value for money, believe me. They are far, many very tiny wineries, not able even to sell around Italy, so it's a handicap region, but delivering incredible quality for the value, and some very special gems like the video I made about Carignano del Sulcis, which was quite well received, is something special. You have even special Vermentinos besides the easy ones, and then Canonau, we will talk about soon. So Sardinia also a lot to discover. It's the less easy to find of these three, but give a try. East Europe, not just Hungary and Croatia, a lot of videos, even trips you can see below, but there is much more. Step by step, there is improvement of quality, still great value, Hungary in particular, as I said many times, but even in others, and they are getting better and a bit more visible. So Hungary, besides Tokai, sweet and dry, Eger, so Egri, Bikaver, so Boost Blood, but even Balaton there is a lot, and there is not just the international grapes, besides Tokai, because even in Eger they use some Cabernet Syrah, but they have a decent number of local varieties, very interesting. So the base for the Bush Blood, other grapes, whites and reds, whites of course all in Tokai area. So there is still a lot, and it's getting more availability around. Of course, remember also now in Europe there are several websites that can deliver, ship to all the continent more or less. Of course, it's a cost, but if you are interested to find from a specific country that you cannot in your own, you can, of course, you need to order several bottles, so you need a bit of guidance or knowledge to know what to pick, but there is this option for several things. So I will start to do more that also to get some Spanish or other things that otherwise I don't have much choice. So Croatia, top for plenty of reasons. There is also the point of very niche, many local varieties. For the small country they have much more than the average, and some really in tiny production. Of course, as I see the response on the videos, Korčula Island, Grk and Poship, the most famous, or Plavac-Mali and Ingac. The rest I see is still not easy, not many know, but there is a lot to discover even there. I want to do more on that, but I need a bit of more response. Let's see how will be the video about Babic. I'm very curious. That is the second most important red. So there is a lot there. Of course, the prices in Croatia are higher. Rest of Balkans, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Bulgaria, Romania, all coming up. Still very tough to find, but I heard good things. I tried something, but very little. Still difficult to find. I think only in the big international cities. In America is another story. I know you guys can find a bit of everything because it's the main market and everyone is present there, more or less. So I guess Bulgaria, Romania still not easy to buy around Europe, but step by step they are coming. And most interesting of all in the Balkans, Greece, which is not considered Balkan country, more Western, but Greece had many handicaps. The first was the financial crisis. Then that they are remote in every mean, all the islets far away, touristic, some majority was sold on spot. So, but step by step I see they grew. There are more regions interested, not anymore only Assyrtiko from Santorini and neighboring islands. Crete Island, the biggest, is getting more and more relevant. And then even inner continental, near Thessaloniki, north, high altitudes, some more new wineries there, new plantations, even Assyrtiko now I saw made there. So Greece is becoming very relevant and interesting with still good prices. Xinomavro, Assyrtiko and several others, and a bit available, not as much yet, but a bit. I will do something. Probably I will be on only one winery, unfortunately, because this is the only one I can find here, but at least one white and one red. I mentioned for France, needed. I did also recently South Rhone, alternatives to Chateauneuf, that is the most prestigious, and you saw that if you watched, there is good value for money still there, even more in Languedoc and some other southern regions, but even South Rhone. So if you want to stay still on something quite prestigious, you can get great quality. Of course, it's only those grapes, so Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, this kind for the reds, whites, the usual Rhone grapes, and very, very minor new upcomers regions, Jura, Savoy, near Italy and Switzerland. So these are very tiny, very exclusive, but also something interesting, even more high altitude wines, lower alcohol, which today is important. So even France have something more to offer than the usual suspects. Final part, Iberian Peninsula. We cannot skip it. You may think that hot, now even more with the hot summers. Still, I'm surprised. Okay, Portugal, first of all, is a tiny country that I love with plenty of local varieties like Italy, almost 300. For that size is a lot. And it's still undervalued in every mean. And they have great wines for reasonable prices. Then, of course, some premium stuff, a bit more expensive, but still incredible what they can deliver. And still, I don't see them much around and not people drinking. I will do something for sure because I love. In my past in Asia, I got to know decent amount of Portuguese wines, and I was always actually I prefer Portuguese than Spanish overall. But Spain, this is important. So to finish Portugal, you have the northern part, Douro Valley, where they do port. That is getting more and more relevant even for white wines and red wines. And you have cooler there. So very interesting wines even for the longevity, the freshness. But even further south, you have very nice wines, probably because they are on the ocean, so more excursion, less hot than in Spain and Mediterranean side, so that helps. I always found very nice expressions, even in the extreme south, but of course there was mostly reds. So Spain for last because it's the most interesting. You think too hot. Remember that Spain has mountains and high hills, high plateaus, even in the south inner, which is still more continental climate. So maybe very hot daytime, but excursion at least is quite good. And especially when you are at 600-700 meters, like they have in plenty of regions now, the vineyards, and then surrounded by mountains. So nighttime is cool, so that helps a lot. So you need to think about that. Nowadays I discover, digging a bit, that there are plenty of regions where all the vineyards are at 5, 6, 7, 800 meters. Not just in the north, in Catalonia, mostly, that is already more known, or even Rioja, there are some vineyards quite high, but majority are a bit lower, but that is already well north. So in the north there are more things, because besides the known, Catalonia also, Priorat, already expensive, top wines, crazy steep slopes, that is Garnacha, so Grenache, and Carignano and some Syrah Cabernet also, already expensive. After Ribera del Duero and Rioja is the other main expensive, Toro also. But besides those and the other ones, mostly Tempranillo, that was the classic wine from Spain. Now you have much more variety. So not just the regions, but even if there is much more focus on Garnacha. There are several regions. Aragon is becoming the home of Garnacha. Aragon is also north, is really close to Catalonia. So there, something interesting to try, even value for money I saw. Still in the north, Basque country, so San Sebastian. I never tried before, but something is starting to be around even from that region. Northwest is famous for Albarino, so the whites, Bierzo, Mencia grape, more on the Pinot Noir style. So those are a bit cooler, that helps. So of course the north is the most interesting for the different things, also different grapes, besides the usual. But surprisingly, even central or central south, some of these regions at 700 meters inner, in Valencia province in particular, and Murcia, which they are center east, southeast. But inner, there are Humilla, high altitude, very interesting for Monastrell, which is Mourvèdre, but also Garnacha even there. In Murcia region, there are another couple, still same concept of altitudes and similar grapes. Valencia is mostly Almansa region, which is not far from this Humilla, so they are bordering the two provinces, and is also focused on Garnacha and Monastrell. And last, Canary Islands, so no Spanish region, but in the Atlantic, tropical area, but on the volcanoes up there, very high, even above 1,000 meters. Lately is coming up, so the alternative to Etna, different grapes, local varieties, seems is already some time that they are doing seriously, but production probably is very little and sold all there with the tourism. In Spain, I saw you find a bit. In America, I heard some guys tried and found more choices. That is something I'm really curious. It's very different from Etna as I read or heard, but it's something I'm interested to try, but it's difficult because even from Spanish website, I found there's only a couple of options, so we'll see. But so Spain has some surprises on grapes, so moving away from the classic Tempranillo, probably even there they realized different tastes, different styles. Garnacha is more gentle, more approachable in youth. So as you know, if you follow, I like it more and more lately, be it from France or Spain. And other minor regions and minor grapes. So that is very interesting. So Spain is something you need to keep an eye on, and not just for thinking about heavy reds. So it's a good panoramic. I hope you find it interesting for you to look for, to try to discover, or to follow us and discover with us in the future. Some of these, of course, many will not be easy at all for now, but step by step, keep it thinking that other things are coming out. If you are curious, wine adventurer, this is the approach to find gems, even very different, very connected to their terroir, their place. I hope you liked this video with a lot of tips. Like, subscribe, comment please, help us to grow faster. You know, here is not free, only this video is free, the others I need to buy bottles and we need to travel, so we need to grow. Thank you for all the help, share, and see you next time. Salute!